Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I'm Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. How is everyone doing today? All right. Well, today you're stuck with just me. Elizabeth had a family emergency and will not be with us here today. So I'm going to do a quick rehash over some things before we go back into the first meditation. Um, I want to remind people that critical thinking is an important part of this. And just so you know, the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. That is critical thinking. Then, along with critical thinking, we also have stoicism, the endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. And of course, our definition of philosophy, because this is what Rene Descartes was a philosopher. The study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. So I bring this back in because when we're looking at Rene Descartes, Rene Descartes, oh, hello, Stoic Padawan. Hello, hello, hello. Rene Descartes, he goes into this mind aspect of what is real and what isn't real. And as we covered through the first 7 parts of the first meditation, we kind of discussed that. Now we're going to go into number 8. And number 8 gets a little more in depth to what Rene Descartes was trying to get to in this first meditation of his first philosophy. We will not, therefore, perhaps reason illegitimately if we conclude from this that physics, astronomy, medicine, and all the other sciences that have for their end the consideration of composite objects are indeed of a doubtful character, but that arithmetic, geometry, and the other sciences of the same class, which regard merely the simplest and most general objects, and scarcely inquire whether or not these are really existent, contain somewhat that is certain and indubitable. For whether I am awake or dreaming, it remains true that 2 and 3 make 5, and that a square has but 4 sides, nor does it seem possible that truth so apparent can ever fall under a suspicion of falsity. So, what we're looking at is Rene Descartes is trying to question what is real and what isn't. And when you look at the first aspect, perhaps reason illegitimately if we conclude from this that physics, astronomy, medicine, and all other sciences that have for their end the consideration of composite objects are indeed of a doubtful character. In other words, things that we can't reach out and touch, things that we put together and make theories from, we can question those. But then arithmetic, geometry, and the sciences of the same class, which regard merely the simplest and most general objects. In other words, 2 plus 3 is 5. We can do that. We can see that. We can touch that. We can feel that. We know that. So there isn't any question in it. And yet, Rene Descartes wants you to take a look at it as, can it ever fall under suspicion of falsity, incertitude? So my question is what is he trying to drive at here? What is his main objective in this philosophy of his? That are we really here? Because this is where the aspect of for whether I am awake or dreaming. He's trying to question whether all of this is just a dream and none of it's actually real. No matter what it is we can see or touch. Or if we're awake, can we question what we can see, and touch. So this brings me then to number 9. Nevertheless, the belief that there is a God who is all powerful and who created me, such as I am, has for a long time obtained steady possession of my mind. Now, I want you to think about this. Something that we can't see, we can't touch. We only go by a belief system that there is a God. Whether you grew up in whatever religious aspect or you determine that there is no God, which we'll get into later. This is something that Rene Descartes, without a doubt, believes that there is a God. And this is where this is going to lead into this next aspect, because his belief of God is unchangeable. How then do I know that he is not arranged, that there should be neither earth nor sky, nor any extended thing, nor figure, nor magnitude, nor place, providing at the same time, however, for the rise in me of the perceptions of all these objects and the persuasion that these do not exist otherwise than as I perceive them. Hello, T-Paw. So, he's saying that this deity, God, has created all these things for him to see, for him to touch, for him to know. And if there wasn't a God, then there wouldn't be a sky, there wouldn't be a earth, there wouldn't be any of these things. So God had to have arranged all of these things for me to be able to touch. And further, as I sometimes think that others are in error respecting matters of which they believe themselves to possess a perfect knowledge, how do I know that I am not also deceived each time I add together 2 and 3, or number the sides of a square, or form some judgment still more simple, if more simple indeed can be imagined? But perhaps deity has not been willing that I should be thus deceived, for he is said to be supremely good. So, the concept here is if this God exists and he's all good, he would not want you to be deceived. So everything that you can see, everything that you can imagine, anything that you can put your hands on, anything you can add together, 2 plus 3, there is no deceit. It has to be real then, okay? Because he's an all good God. So why would he deceive you? If, however, if the repugnant to the goodness of deity to have created me subject to constant deception, it would seem likewise to be contrary to his goodness to allow me to be occasionally deceived. And yet it is clear that this is permitted. Does Descartes apply critical thinking on his beliefs of a deity? Does he question it at one point? As you get into the further readings of Descartes, he creates a lot of divisionary and circular arguments. Does he apply critical thinking? Yes, he does to an extent. If you go back to the first episode, where I bring up argument. Premise 1, all cars are blue. Premise 2, John owns a car. Conclusion, John owns a blue car. Premise A and premise B, if they are true, then the conclusion has to be true. Okay? We know that not all cars are blue. So instead of being a sound argument, it's only a valid argument. When Rene Descartes makes his arguments, he makes them with the understanding that God is real. So he uses circular arguments that explicitly detail that the argument is truthful that there's an existence of God because we already know God exists. Okay. Instead of actually questioning the existence of God. So he never truly does question if there is a God. It's always part of his belief system. And I think that's one of the faults of Rene Descartes, but we'll get into that later. But thank you, Stoic. I appreciate that question. Let's see, where was I? And yet it is clear that this is permanent. Okay. The part that Rene Descartes is getting here too is that in life we know that we are deceived. There are things that may not hold true to what we thought because we were misinformed. We were showing something different. We the example that I have given a few times on here and some other shows and all that. You have a town square, and in the center of town square, there's this huge cube. And the north side is blue, the south side is green, the east side is red, the west side is yellow. Depending upon what side of town you come in on, that's the color of the side that you're going to see. So if you have 3 or 4 people that all come in from different sides and they're conversing later, they're all going to argue that the cube was a different color because they saw a different side of the cube. Okay. So if you don't know that the other sides are different colors, you're going to have the belief that you were deceived in believing that the entire cube was one color because of the color that you saw. So what Rene Descartes is trying to say here is basically certain deceptions are acceptable, and yet it's up to us to basically obtain the knowledge to see past that deception. Let me read through that one more time for you. If, however, if we're repugnant to the goodness of deity to have created me subject to constant deception, it would seem likewise to be contrary to his goodness to allow me to be occasionally deceived. And yet it is clear that this is permitted. Okay. Now let's go on to 10. Some indeed might perhaps be found who would be disposed rather to deny the existence of a being so powerful than to believe that there is nothing certain. Being so powerful than to believe that there is nothing certain. Does this relate in some way to Plato's cave analogy? Oh, you know, I would believe so. I would believe so. Because, I mean, if you're always stuck inside the cave and you don't know that there is other things out there, I would say yes. I would say yes, Stoic. I would say it does relate to that aspect. And I believe you're looking at the mind-body problem and its whole authority in relation to the cave. Um, unless we can see what's beyond death, unless we can see that there's something more out there, we're just going to have these theories and we're going to dream and we're going to imagine. And the only thing that we can know is what we know, what's right here in front of us, what we can touch, what we can see. How do we venture out beyond our own mind? You know, I mean, how do we know that everything that we have right here that's in front of us is real and not a dream? And this is what Rene Descartes leading to. So does it relate in some way? I would say as far as like the confines of the mind, yes. As far as the total analogy of where Plato was going with his analogy versus where Descartes going with his, no, they are different, though there are some similarities. I'm going to go back here to number 10. Some indeed might perhaps be found who would be disposed rather to deny the existence of a being so powerful than to believe that there is nothing certain. But let us for the present refrain from opposing this opinion and grant that all which is here said of a deity is fabulous. Nevertheless, in whatever way it be supposed that I reach the state in which I exist, whether by fate or by chance, or by an endless series of incidents and consequence, or by any other means, It is clear, since to be deceived and to err is a certain defect, that the probability of my being so imperfect as to be the constant victim of deception will be increased exactly in proportion as the power possessed by the cause to which they assign my origin is lessened. To this reasoning, I have assuredly nothing to reply, but am constrained at last to avow that there is nothing of all that I formerly believed to be true, of which it is impossible to doubt, and that not through thoughtlessness or levity, but with cogent and maturely considered reasons, so that henceforward, if I desire to discover anything certain, I ought not the less carefully to refrain from asserting to those same opinions that to what might be shown to be manifestly false. It's a lot to take in. I'm going to start over here on this, and I'm going to go line by line. Some, indeed, might perhaps be found who would be disposed rather to deny the existence of a being so powerful. There are people out there that would rather deny the existence. And again, this is where his mindset is. His belief is that there is a God. So to insist that there would be people out there that would deny the existence, okay, and to believe that nothing is certain, all right. When you have this belief system in a deity, in a God, whoever your God may be, whatever religion or belief system that you choose, you have to realize that all of these systems of gods, deities, creators have a beginning and an end. They have you go from point A to point B. You have a creator of all things that has set us on a path, is all good, all knowing, which means our destiny and our fate is already predetermined. All right. And everything that is planned for us is planned with certainty. Whereas when he's saying then to believe that there is nothing certain, non-believers of a God, atheists, would be people that believe that nothing is certain, that there is no destiny, there is no fate, there is no path. You create your own path. Okay. So Descartes, who believes that there is a path, is trying to say that he has to continue to believe that there is a path. But let's take what these naysayers have to say as being factual. But let us for the present refrain from opposing this opinion and grant that all which is here said of a deity is fabulous. In other words, we're going to take the naysayers out. We're not going to consider them as part of the equation because, quite frankly, he believes there's certainty. So in his belief of certainty, he has to take that aspect out of the equation. So then everything that is created by the deity is fabulous. It's perfect. Nevertheless, in whatever way it is that it be supposed that I reach the state in which I exist, whether by fate or chance, this is where he brings them both back in, okay? In which I exist, whether by fate, which would mean I believe in a deity, so it's a God, all fabulous, or chance, in other words, there is no God and I just happen to be here, or by an endless series of antecedents and consequence, or by any other means, it is clear that the probability of my being so imperfect as to be the constant victim of deception will be increased exactly, okay? In other words, there's going to be deception, okay? So whether you believe in a God or you don't believe in God, there's going to be deception. My being so imperfect as to be the constant victim of deception will be increased exactly in proportion as the power possessed by the cause, okay, to which they assign my origin is lessened. Okay. So, for whatever reason that you are put here by deity, in proportion as the power possessed by the cause to which they assign my origin is lessened. The power that the deceit that I have to encounter and the things that I have to learn through the life that I'm going to live, the more knowledge I have, the less deceit, the more deceit that I encounter, the more knowledgeable I become. So this is where I kind of, my assessment of this is the more you learn, the more you understand yourself, the less you're going to be deceived. To these reasonings, I have assuredly nothing to reply, but am constrained at last to avow that there is nothing of all that I formerly believed to be true, of which it is impossible to doubt. In other words, anything that I can think of, anything outside of the creator, and Rene Descartes, again, you'll get this along the way, outside of a creator for Rene Descartes, everything that I can see, I can imagine, I can taste, I can hear, I can sense, anything I can create, whatever, I can doubt it. Everything can be doubted. And anything that I would perceive to be a truth, as I'm holding this glass of water, I can now doubt that I'm holding this glass of water. Okay. So the end result of this is that anything can be doubted. No matter 2 plus 3 is 5. I can doubt that. Everything can be doubted. And that not through thoughtlessness or levity, but from cognate and maturely considered reasons, so that henceforward, if I desire to discover anything certain, I ought not the less carefully to refrain from assenting to those same opinions than to what might be shown to be manifestly false. I ought not the less carefully to refrain from assenting to those same opinions than to what might be shown to be manifestly false. So anything that I can perceive to be may not be. And anything that I may perceive as false may be a truth. Kind of a mind play here on his words. But now, again, I could be misinterpreting this. I'm not an expert on defining and breaking down philosophy, but this is what us philosophers do. We go in, we analyze, we have other people give us other thoughts and other alternatives as to what the meanings might be behind on this, you know. So with that, I see Rene Descartes going into this process of questioning everything, no matter what it is, except for his deity. Number 11. But it is not sufficient to have made these observations. Care must be taken likewise to keep them in remembrance. For those old and customary opinions perpetually recur. For those old and customary opinions perpetually recur. Long and familiar usage giving them the right of occupying my mind, even almost against my will, and subduing my belief. Nor will I lose the habit of deferring to them and confiding in them, so long as I shall consider them to be what in truth they are, opinions to some extent doubtful, as I have already shown, but still highly probable, and such as it is much more reasonable to believe than to deny. In other words, even though I can doubt that I'm holding this glass of water, it is much more probable and much more reasonable that I am indeed holding a glass of water. I know this to be a glass. I know that the liquid inside is water. So I can look at this as a truth, though I am within my own right to doubt it. But for all intents and purposes, and even though it might plague my mind, as he said, occupying long and familiar usage, giving them the right of occupying my mind, even almost against my will, and subduing my belief. In other words, to have that doubt, it's still going to linger there. But for all intents and purposes, I'm still holding a glass of water. It is for this reason I am persuaded that I shall not be doing wrong if taking an opposite judgment of deliberate design. I become my own deceiver by supposing for a time that all of those opinions are entirely false and imaginary. So, in other words, I'm now going to deceive myself. It is not a glass of water that I am holding. I'm going to deceive myself. I am holding something else entirely different. The glass, which I perceive to be a solid, is actually a liquid. And the liquid in the glass is actually a gas. Oh my. Until at length, having thus balanced my old by my new prejudices, my judgment shall no longer be turned aside by perverted usage from the path that may conduct to the perception of truth. Oh, I have more questions. Okay. Well, if you're Stoic, that just means managing emotions. It doesn't negate a deity or belief of one, right? Let me put that back up there. Well, if you're Stoic, that just means managing emotions. It doesn't negate a deity or belief of one, right? Correct. It doesn't. You can still be a Stoic and still believe in a god, gods, deities, supernatural spirits, whatever. Yes, you can still be a Stoic. All Stoicism truly is on its surface is someone that is able to control their emotions no matter what's put before them, no matter what hardship, no matter what pain, no matter what it is that's going on, they're able to control their emotions. So the belief system that goes behind that, as you'll learn with a lot of other, especially the Pythagoreans, I would suggest reading things from the Pythagoreans where virtue, and most Stoics take this on, of living a most virtuous life. Now, where that virtue derives from, whether it's your religion or just the goodwill of doing no harm or whatever it is, that's, you have to determine that virtue. Excuse me. Does Descartes simply embrace theism, or is he directly advocating for the God of Abraham in the Bible? From all the readings that I've had of Rene Descartes, I believe that he simply advocates for the God of Abraham in the Bible. Yes, he throughout all of the things he refuses to let go of that. A lot of his arguments that he makes, again, as you study Descartes, you'll see that his arguments are circular or divisionary in relation to trying to illustrate that there is a God. Would the fact that he can doubt everything except for a God disqualify his search for the truth? How do you see this? Personally, I don't think that Rene Descartes is actually looking for truth. I think that Rene Descartes is personally, in my opinion, trying to establish the creator in his mind. So, in his philosophy of disregarding anything that is real and trying to establish what is real, comes back to what you can touch, what you can see, what you can feel, and that the creator himself put it all there for you. And let's see, hold on. Does this disqualify his search for truth? I don't think it disqualifies his search for the truth. As far as finding the truth for everyone, I would say yes. For finding his own truth, no. Because I think that's what he was actually searching for, was his own truth. But that's another discussion for another day. Stoicism is more than just managing emotions. It doesn't negate or necessarily affirm that there is a God. There is the logos, rational nature of everything that encapsulates everything. Absolutely. Absolutely. And how does Descartes establish objective reality? We're going to get to that. You're going to have to come back for meditation too. Okay. Because meditation too. And hello, Shadow Fox. Okay. Where was I? It is for this reason I am persuaded that I shall not be doing wrong if taking an opposite judgment of deliberate design. And when he says deliberate design, he means the design of the creator. Okay. I become my own deceiver by supposing for a time that all those opinions are entirely false and imaginary, until at length, having thus balanced my old by my new prejudices, my judgment shall no longer be turned aside by perverted usage from the path that may conduct to the perception of truth. I think this might kind of answer some of the questions that some of you had right there. I become my own deceiver. Okay. In other words, I become my own deceiver. Let's take God out for a second. By supposing for a time that all those opinions are entirely false and imaginary, until at length, having thus balanced by my new prejudices, my judgment shall no longer be turned aside by perverted usage from the path that we may conduct to the perception of truth. Now, right before that, he had stated, taking an opposite judgment of deliberate design. Okay? In other words, if I'm going to throw that out, if I'm going to throw out God, okay? I become my own deceiver. Right there, he's lying to himself. All right? So by taking out God, I'm now my own deceiver. So I'm lying to myself because everything is created by God. He's not being objective. He's not saying that I'm looking at this unbiasedly. He's still biased because God is still the aspect here. For I am assured that meanwhile there will arise neither peril nor error from this course, and that I cannot for the present yield too much to distrust, since the end I now seek is not action, but knowledge. And that's probably the strongest statement that Rene Descartes makes in this first meditation is, for I am assured that meanwhile there will arise neither peril nor error from this course, and that I cannot for the present yield too much to distrust, since the end I now seek is not action, but knowledge. So his claim to seek for knowledge is in essence what we're all doing here in life, is we're trying to find knowledge and know more about what is out there. Now, there's a lot of people that they won't put their belief systems aside to question their own belief systems. If you're truly looking for a truth, Sometimes you have to take everything that you do believe and throw it to the side and look at other things in a truthful manner to yourself. Is this a possibility? Is this something that could be? Does this take away from what I already believe? So you have to open yourself up to knowledge and be willing to accept more knowledge into making yourself stronger mentally. That's not to say that any belief system that you have to throw away. Okay. It's not saying that, okay, I believe in God, so I'm going to throw God aside and no longer believe in God so that I can look at this. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. You can still have your belief in your God, but it doesn't hurt to read about other gods or other belief systems, because there might be something that resonates with you that might take what you had once believed and bring it into something else. So the biggest thing is to question everything. Hello, Diana. Accountability, thoughts, emotions, deeds. Accountability, thoughts, emotions, deeds. Emotional deeds, beliefs that are taught and not sought. Question everything. Question everything. Yes. Question everything. All right. Let's see where we're at. Okay. I have time. I'm going to go into number 12. This is the final one, and it's a long one. It's a long one. I will suppose then, not that deity, who is sovereignly good and the fountain of truth, but that some malignant demon, again, I will suppose then, not the deity, who is sovereignly good and the fountain of truth, but that some malignant demon, who is at once exceedingly potent and deceitful, has employed all his artifice to deceive me. I will suppose that the sky, the air, the earth, colors, figures, sounds, and all external things are nothing better than the illusions of dreams, by means of which this being has laid out snares for my credibility. I will consider myself as without hands, eyes, flesh, body, or any of the senses, and is falsely believing that I am possessed of these. Okay. So, by denying that there's a God, but there's a malignant demon that runs everything instead, I now have to throw everything away. I now am in the state of dream and I don't exist. Because that's what a malignant demon would do, not a good God. I will suppose then, not that deity, who is sovereignly good and the fountain of truth. Okay. A malignant demon, potent and deceitful, has employed all artifice to deceive me. The earth, the sky, the colors, none of that's real. I will consider myself without eyes, hands, flesh. Okay. I will continue resolutely fixed in this belief, and if indeed by this means, it be not in my power to arrive at the knowledge of truth, I shall at least do what is in my power, and guard with settled purpose against giving my assent to what is false, and being opposed upon by this deceiver, whatever be his power and artifice. But this undertaking is arduous, and a certain indolence and sensibility leads me back to my ordinary course of life. And just as the captive, who perchance, was enjoying in his dreams an imaginary liberty. When he begins to suspect that it is but a vision, dreads awakening, and conspires with the agreeable illusions that the deception may be prolonged. So I, of my own accord, fall back into the train of my former beliefs and fear to arouse myself from my slumber, lest the time of laborious wakefulness that would succeed this quiet rest, in place of bringing any light of day, should provoke inadequate to dispel the darkness that will arise from the difficulties that have now been raised. Stoic School with Professor Paul points to Ravenclaw. okay, T-Paw. Demons, the thoughts are pessimistic, cup half empty, only suffering. Yes. This is one of the aspects of Rene Descartes, is that Rene Descartes, in his whole search for truth, could not let go of his Bible. He just could not let go of his Bible. Everything had to come back to that. And any of his thought processes, all of his arguments that would account for something that would be deceitful, or if everything that we have is illusion, then it must be evil. So basically, if we are that mind that is trapped in a jar, controlled by a malignant demon, an evil scientist, a mad scientist, and all of these illusions are put before us and none of it is real, it's got to be something that's evil that would be doing it. So since there is nothing that's evil that's doing it, and there is only God that is good, then the bottom line is everything that I can see and touch is here by God and is real. And all the other illusions, that would be the work of the devil. That would be evil. So I have to imagine that everything that is, going back to my former beliefs, as he says here, begins to suspect that it is but a vision, dreads awakening, and conspires with the agreeable illusions that the deception may be prolonged. So I, of my own accord, fall back into the train of my former beliefs and fear to arouse myself from my slumber, lest the time of laborious wakefulness that would succeed this quiet rest, in place of bringing any light of day, should prove inadequate to dispel the darkness that would arise from the difficulties that have now been raised. And that is where we are going to end the first meditation, meditation 2, of the nature of the human mind, and that it is more easily known than the body. He kind of starts out, the meditation of yesterday has filled my mind with so many doubts that it is no longer in my power to forget them. Basically, all of these things that he has brought up in the first meditation is a questioning of reality. Okay? What is real? What isn't? What is known? What is not known? When we look at whether it's 2 plus 3 is 5, as he says, a square has 4 sides. What if a square has 8 sides? How do I even question that? Well, you don't. A square has 4 sides. I mean, what we're looking at in this reality that we're in right now, the human reality, the logic reality, all things are as we see them. Even the deceit that we see it as, we see it for the deceit that it is, maybe not for the truth that it is, but we still see it. Okay? Would Descartes prefer to be in a slumber if the demon was real and believe in his God? Or am I getting it wrong? No, you're right. Descartes would rather be in the slumber then accept, if the demon is real, he would rather be in that slumber and just not wake up than give up his belief in God. Okay? So in his mind, as I take the reading of Descartes, and all the readings that you get from Descartes, when you go through all of them and just really look at them holistically, Rene Descartes would rather stay asleep and be in an imaginary world controlled by a demon, knowing that he's being deceived and knowing that there's nothing else that can go on, than accept the idea that his God isn't real. So if he's got to accept that his God isn't real, he would rather remain in that slumber and be asleep. So the fact that he believes that his God is real, he's not going to go into that sleep. So now he's going to go back to his beliefs. So when you go back to your beliefs, then there is a God. 2 + 3 is 5. Squares have 4 sides. The aspects of medicine, physics, astronomy, the sciences, the geometry, the algebra, the mathematics, all of these things are now real again. So he would stay in the matrix then. If there was no God, yes, he would stay in the matrix. Absolutely. He would stay in the matrix. Hell, whether there's a God or not, put me in the matrix, I'm going to have a blast. But anyways, Stoic beat me to it. The matrix commences, Mr. Anderson. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Depends on the matrix. Basically, what Rene Descartes is leading up to with this is the whole mind-body problem. Are we awake or are we dreaming? Is this real or is it not? And kind of like a lot of arguments that are made in philosophy, there's some things that you don't need to waste a lot of time on. Okay. The best line that Rene Descartes said, I doubt, therefore I think. Okay. I think, therefore I am. The fact that I do have doubt that everything that there is, I question everything, as Shadowfox said, question everything. And the fact that I think I'm able to have thoughts, I'm able to do things, I am here. What are some of the critiques on him? There's a questions and replies. I forget the name of it. Where people actually question a lot of the things with Rene Descartes, and he responds to them. I forget the name of it. Let's see. Let me Google it real quick. Rene Descartes, questions and replies. Objections to Meditations and Descartes' Replies. It's called Objections to the Meditations and Descartes' Replies. So I would look it up, Objections to the Meditations, and go over some of that. Very, very intriguing. And again, when you get into Objections and Replies, you're going to notice that a lot of the arguments that Rene Descartes then presents are very circular. He's in my opinion, of all the philosophers that I've read and researched and studied, I would say that the most circular, argumentative philosopher out there is Rene Descartes. Okay. One of the reasons why I chose Rene Descartes is because he brings up some of the things that we don't need to waste a lot of time on for argument, but it opens up our minds to the aspect of what Shadowfox had said. We need to question everything. Rene Descartes implies that he questions everything, but the reality is he doesn't, because he can't give up some of his beliefs, especially his belief in a God, and as part of the argument and debate system. So if you can't give up your side to the argument and argue it from the other side completely, then you're not being truly objective, and you're not opening yourself up to learn. You have to be able to argue from both sides. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to look into something and research it and try to prove yourself wrong and present something of solid, belief, then you're not learning. And one of my favorite things to do when I was in philosophy was the whole debate. I love argument, and I like taking a topic and, okay, take this topic and prove it right. Take this topic and prove it wrong. Okay. Or come at this topic from this side and then come at it from this side. Why is it good or why is it not good? You know, and when you do that, you learn a lot more about it, because it's always easy to prove yourself right. All right. You can Google now. Okay. This is going back to my day and time and all. You had to go to the library and look stuff up. Now you can Google shit. All right. So it's real easy to just go on Google and, okay, I believe in this. So give me everything that says this is right. And you're going to get a ton of stuff. Prove that this is wrong. You're still going to get a ton of stuff. But now you got to start digging and digging and digging and digging. And once you start digging into it, now you can start to open your mind up, because now you can look at things in a more philosophical way, a more argumentative way, a more precise way. Does he, if he still keeps one foot in Abrahamic belief system? As far as I know, Rene Descartes believed in his God all the way to the end. Yes. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't hold that against him. He had a strong belief in his God, which is a good thing. If you have a strong belief in your belief system that doesn't harm other people, I'm all for that. It's great to have that. Okay. Even myself, I used to define as an atheist. I don't even know what I define as anymore, if I break it down, because I've had like a spiritual awakening here in the last few weeks. So my mind is opened up to some things that I didn't believe in. I would hear and it would be just like, yeah, okay. And now, there's things that are starting to resonate with me in a whole different frequency and a whole new vibration. So you have to open your mind up to things. And if you can't do that, then you're going to get stuck and you can't move forward. Not at all. But does he truly examine or question? No. Rene Descartes never truly questioned his religious belief system. He never ever, in my opinion, he never ever truly questioned it. He created circular arguments. Yes, Shadow Fox. Yes. He was afraid of the pink elephant in the room. He was afraid of the pink elephant in the room. Okay, I got like 5 more minutes. Anybody else have any more questions on Rene Descartes' first meditation? Oh. Okay, as I wait for some more questions to pop up here, sometimes they come in a little late. Yes, it is a lot to take in, Diana. A lot to take in. Rene Descartes, he has a long-winded way of trying to explain things. he goes off on these tangents of trying to make things sound complex and important and have poignancy. You could definitely break down a lot of the things that he says. Oh, okay. Hold on. Yes. All right, dude. Yes. Um, you can take a lot of the things that he says and reduce it down. And Rene Descartes would try, like in a sentence, to try to explain two sides of a thing. And sometimes in his explanations, things can get twisted around and very, very difficult to understand. And you would have to go to prior sentences, later sentences to try to break it down. Sometimes even like when you look at, you go back to 7. To this class of objects seem to belong corporeal nature in general and its extension, the figure of extended things, their quantity or magnitude, and their number, as also the place in and the time during which they exist, and other things of that same sort. You got to read 6, and then you got to read 8, and to try to figure out whether he's reflecting back on 6, or if he's preparing you for 8. Is very, very difficult to comprehend in his meditation. And I think he's prepping you for 8, whereas last week when Elizabeth and I were discussing it, she believes that it's a reflection back on 6. So he did not step into the observer. Hold on, what do we got going here? A lot to take in. I'm not as stoic as I thought. Oh, no, Diana. Yes, you are. You're a lot more stoic than you realize. Yes, you are, Diana. Yes. You're just not him. Does stoicism allow for crying? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a stoic and I cry. Okay. The few stoics that I do know cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. But there's also the ability that if I need to hold back my tears, I can hold them back. If I am angry, I can hold it back so that you don't know that I'm angry. If I'm frustrated, if I'm sad, I can hold that back and you will never know it. You won't even feel it. Okay. But when the time is right, whether it's me being with myself or if it's me with a close loved one to where I feel safe, I feel secure, and I need to feel these things because I've had questions, I've had doubts, I've had whatever, I can then let all of that emotion go and feel it for what needs to be felt. So that is what a Stoic does. If you haven't caught Stoic Bryce, and his readings of Marcus Aurelius, you need to go back and listen to that because you get that throughout Marcus Aurelius and his writings, where he had a lot of emotion, but he couldn't show it. He did not step into the observer. There you go. That's a strong point. Rene Descartes did not step into the observer. He tried to present as the observer, but did not step into the role. Absolutely. Yes, exactly. Thank you. I feel it. I feel you, Paul, no matter how stoic you are. Absolutely. Boom. So, yes, you have to take a look at things. Rene Descartes not an easy read. All right. Rene Descartes is not an easy read. In one of my first philosophy classes that I took, One of the biggest things that we went over was Rene Descartes. Apparently, my philosophy teacher loved Rene Descartes. Don't know why. Couldn't figure that out. Don't know why, but loved Rene Descartes and the teachings of Rene Descartes. I think it's because Rene Descartes had a lot of circular and divisionary arguments. But Rene Descartes is very, very difficult. And a lot of the students had troubles comprehending and understanding the writings of Rene Descartes. Very complex, very complex. If you go step by step and you break it down, it becomes easier to digest as you go. I suggest that everybody get this book and read it, not just once, not just twice, but about 3, 4, 5, 6 dozen times. And every time you read it, I guarantee you, you're going to get something new out of it. You're going to get something better out of it, and you're going to get a greater understanding of where Rene Descartes was coming from. And again, he loved his God. Okay. He refused to set his God aside for any of his arguments. Even though he would claim that he did, he didn't. So, anyways, one of my favorites is M.A. One of your favorites is M.A. Who's M.A.? I'm at a loss here. I don't know why I can't get this. I see it as the observer when I recognize that I've been in survival mode most of my life, then crying because that fact was real life. There you go. There you go. Very, very strong statement there. Marcus Aurelius. God damn it. It was resonating and it wasn't coming through. Yes. Marcus Aurelius. Definitely. All right, everyone. That was an unloading, a lot of information. Hopefully everything's okay with Elizabeth and her family, and hopefully next week she'll be back. Thank you everybody for coming in and showing your support. I greatly appreciate it. And remember, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.